The beeping of hospital monitors faded into a distant hum as I stared out the window, my body weak but my spirit unbroken. Outside, the world continued its dance of life, oblivious to the battle raging inside my own skin. It was the day of my sister Elena's graduation, and here I was, alone in a sterile hospital room, fighting a rare autoimmune condition that threatened to consume me. My name is Olivia Martinez, and at 24, I was supposed to be starting my life, not fighting for its very existence. The irony wasn't lost on me. While Elena would be walking across the stage, receiving accolades and applause, I was preparing for a life-altering surgery that could either save me or end me. I remember the day my parents made their choice. The doctors had explained the critical nature of my condition, the urgent need for an experimental treatment that could potentially halt the progression of my disease. But Elena's graduation was in 2 weeks, and my parents couldn't bear to miss it. "We'll reschedule the surgery," my mother had said, her eyes avoiding mine. "It's just a few weeks. You'll be fine." Fine. The word echoed in my mind like a cruel joke. Those few weeks became months, and my condition deteriorated rapidly. By the time they finally paid attention, the window for the most effective treatment had nearly closed. My father, a successful businessman, seemed more concerned about the potential disruption to the family's perfect image than my actual survival. "You've always been the complicated one," he'd muttered, more to himself than to me. Elena, my younger sister, hadn't even tried to hide her discomfort. She was too busy preparing for her big moment, too excited about her future to be bothered by my medical crisis. The family had always favored her, the golden child, the one who seemed to effortlessly achieve everything she touched. As I lay in the hospital bed, I made a silent promise to myself. I would survive, not for them but for me. The surgery was brutal. Experimental treatments often are. For weeks, I fought through pain, through uncertainty, through the crushing weight of feeling completely alone. The medical team became my family. Dr. Thompson, my primary physician, was more supportive than my own blood relatives. "You're stronger than you know," he would tell me during his rounds. "Your body is fighting, and so are you." Slowly, miraculously, I began to heal. The experimental treatment worked better than anyone had expected. My body, once a battlefield of chronic illness, started to recover. But the emotional scars ran deeper than any physical wound. I decided to channel my pain into purpose. If I survived this, I would become a doctor. Not just any doctor, but one who would understand what it meant to be truly seen, truly cared for. 5 years passed. I graduated at the top of my medical school class, specializing in rare autoimmune conditions, the very disease that had nearly claimed my life. My research caught the attention of some of the most prestigious medical institutions in the country. I had rebuilt myself, piece by piece. The weak, forgotten daughter had transformed into Dr. Olivia Martinez, a rising star in medical research and treatment. My published papers, my groundbreaking research, these became my revenge, my statement to a family that had once written me off. But fate, it seemed, was not done with me yet. The call came on a crisp autumn morning. My father's voice was different, hesitant, almost broken. "Olivia," he said, and I could hear something I hadn't heard in years. Was it fear? "Elena's sick," he continued. "The doctors say they don't know what's wrong." I should have felt a moment of vindication, a chance to show them what it felt like to be ignored, to be left alone during a medical crisis. But I was a doctor now. I had taken an oath to heal, to save lives. "Tell me everything," I said, my professional mask sliding into place. As he described Elena's symptoms, a chill ran down my spine. The signs were eerily familiar. A rare, aggressive autoimmune condition that mirrored my own diagnosis from years ago. The very condition I had spent my entire medical career studying. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of irony. Little did they know that the daughter they had once forgotten was now the only person who could potentially save the sister who had been chosen over her. My fingers traced the small scar on my arm, a reminder of my own battle, now transformed into my greatest strength. I was no longer that vulnerable patient. I was Dr. Olivia Martinez, and I was about to face the ultimate test of my professional and personal journey. The game was about to change, and this time I was in control. The hospital corridors felt different this time. No longer was I the vulnerable patient, but a respected physician walking with purpose. Elena's medical file was open on my tablet, each test result and symptom a puzzle I was determined to solve. Dr. Michael Chen, the attending physician, looked up as I approached. Dr. Martinez, he greeted me, a hint of respect in his voice. I've reviewed the case. It's complicated. I knew complicated. I had lived complicated. Alina looked nothing like the confident graduate I remembered. Pale, thin, her once vibrant eyes now dull with pain and fear. When our eyes met, I saw something I had never seen before. Vulnerability. "You're here," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I pulled up a chair, my professional demeanor masking the storm of emotions beneath. "Tell me everything," I said, my tone clinical yet compassionate. The diagnosis was eerily similar to my own. A rare autoimmune condition that had progressed rapidly. The irony was not lost on me. The same disease that had nearly killed me now threatened my sister's life. My parents sat in the corner, a study in contrasts. My father looked defeated, my mother's perfectly manicured hands trembling slightly. They watched me with a mixture of hope and desperation, a far cry from the dismissive attitude they'd shown during my own medical crisis. "We need an aggressive treatment plan," I told the medical team, "and I want to lead it." Dr. Chen raised an eyebrow. "It's an extremely complex case. The risks are calculated," I interrupted. "I've spent my entire career studying this exact condition." The next few days were a blur of consultations, research, and intense medical strategizing. I poured every ounce of my knowledge, every lesson learned from my own battle, into Elena's treatment. During a late-night consultation, Elena broke the years of silence between us. "I'm sorry," she said softly, "for everything, for not being there when you were sick." I could have unleashed years of pain, of rejection. Instead, I chose something harder: compassion. "We're going to get through this," I replied, adjusting her IV. The treatment was experimental, pushing the boundaries of current medical understanding. Each procedure was a delicate dance between hope and science. I remembered my own journey, the fear, the uncertainty, the feeling of being utterly alone. But Elena wasn't alone. Not anymore. My parents watched in awe as I worked. Gone was the forgotten daughter they once dismissed. I was a force of medical expertise, each decision calculated, each intervention precise. "How did you become so brilliant?" my father asked one evening, his voice a mixture of pride and regret. "You don't get to take credit for this," I said quietly. "This was my journey, my survival." The medical team was skeptical. The condition was aggressive, the chances of full recovery slim. But I had beaten these odds before. I knew every nuance, every potential complication. Days turned into weeks. Elena's condition stabilized, then slowly improved. Each positive test result was a small victory, each improved scan a testament to my dedication. One particularly challenging night, as I reviewed Elena's latest test results, my mother approached me. "I never understood," she said, her voice breaking. "How strong you were. How much you survived." I didn't respond immediately. Some wounds take more than words to heal. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. A combination of treatments I had developed during my own research, treatments that combine traditional medicine with cutting-edge immunological approaches. "It's working," Dr. Chen confirmed, looking at the test results. "Remarkably well." Elena's recovery wasn't just medical, it was transformative. With each passing day, she grew stronger, more vibrant. And something else was happening. A fragile reconnection between us. She began asking about my research, my journey. For the first time, she saw me, not as the forgotten sister, but as a medical professional who had turned personal tragedy into triumph. "I want to understand," she told me one afternoon. "Everything you went through. How you survived." I shared my story, not with bitterness, but with the calm understanding of someone who had walked through fire and emerged stronger. My parents watched this transformation, silent witnesses to a healing that went beyond the physical. As Elena's condition continued to improve, I realized something profound. This wasn't just about medical treatment. This was about healing, of a body, of a relationship, of years of unspoken pain. The final test results were nothing short of miraculous. Elena was not just recovering, she was thriving. The experimental treatment had worked better than anyone could have predicted. "You saved my life," Elena said, tears in her eyes. I thought about the little girl who had been left behind, the patient who had been ignored, the doctor who had risen from the ashes of family rejection. "No," I replied, "I saved myself first. and in doing so, I found the strength to save you. The journey was far from over. But for the first time, there was hope. Real, tangible hope. As I looked at Elena, at my parents, I knew that some wounds could heal, some bridges could be rebuilt, not through grand gestures, but through the quiet, persistent power of compassion and professional excellence. The next chapter was about to begin. 1 year later, the transformation was complete, both medical and personal. Elena had changed dramatically. No longer the self-absorbed sister who once prioritized her graduation over my life. She was now a medical research assistant, working alongside me in the same hospital where I had once fought for my survival. "I want to understand everything," she told me one morning, reviewing patient files together. "Not just the medical science, but your journey." The hospital had become more than just a workplace. It was a testament to resilience, to the power of turning personal pain into professional purpose. My research on autoimmune conditions had gained international recognition. The experimental treatment that saved Elena was now being studied as a potential breakthrough for similar conditions. Medical journals featured my work. Conferences invited me to speak. A far cry from the forgotten daughter I once was. But success was never about vindication for me. It was about making a difference. During a particularly challenging case, Elena witnessed something that would change her perspective forever. A young patient, fighting a similar condition to the one that had nearly claimed my life, was struggling. "How do you stay so calm?" she asked me, watching me interact with the patient. I smiled, remembering my own journey, because I've been exactly where she is. Every patient is more than just a medical file. They're a story of survival. My parents' transformation was perhaps the most surprising. My father, once a distant businessman more concerned with appearances, had become a quiet supporter of my work. He'd established a foundation supporting medical research for rare autoimmune conditions, inspired by my journey. "I was blind," he'd admitted during a family dinner. The words were simple, but carried the weight of years of regret. My mother had changed too. She now volunteered at support groups for families dealing with chronic illnesses, sharing our story. A story of hope, of resilience. The hospital became our shared ground. Elena and I, once separated by family dynamics, were now united by a common purpose. She was learning, growing, understanding the depth of medical compassion. "I never knew the weight of what you went through," she confessed one evening. "How lonely it must have been. I thought about those dark days in the hospital, abandoned, fighting for my life, but I no longer felt anger. Instead, I felt a sense of peace. Every challenge is an opportunity," I told her, "to learn, to grow, to become stronger." My research continued to push boundaries. We were developing treatments that could potentially help thousands of patients fighting similar conditions. Each breakthrough was a small victory, a testament to the power of perseverance. The medical community took notice. Invitations to present at international conferences, collaborations with leading research institutions. My work was making a real difference. But the most significant transformation was happening within our family. During a hospital fundraiser, my parents watched as Elena and I presented our joint research. The pride in their eyes was unmistakable. Not the superficial pride of past achievements, but a deep, genuine appreciation for who we had become. "We were wrong," my father said later that evening, "about so many things." I didn't need elaborate apologies. Actions spoke louder than words. Elena's own journey of redemption was profound. She had become passionate about patient care, understanding that medicine was about more than just scientific knowledge. It was about compassion, about seeing the human behind the medical condition. "I want to specialize in autoimmune research," she told me one day, "to help people like you helped me." The irony was not lost on me. The sister who once overlooked my medical crisis was now dedicating her life to understanding and treating such conditions. Our research team became a family of its own. Diverse, supportive, united by a common goal of pushing medical boundaries. One particular morning, a breakthrough came that would change everything. A new treatment protocol that could potentially revolutionize how we approach autoimmune conditions. "We did this together," I told Elena, looking at the preliminary research results. She squeezed my hand. The gesture spoke volumes of sisterhood, of healing, of understanding. As I looked around the research lab, I realized that my greatest achievement wasn't the medical breakthroughs or the professional recognition. It was the ability to transform pain into purpose, rejection into resilience. My life had come full circle. The forgotten daughter, The patient fighting for survival was now a beacon of hope for countless others. Some stories I often told my patients are not about how you fall, they're about how you rise. And rise we did.